Okay, let's really dive into something fundamental today. We've all had those moments, haven't we? Asking ourselves, why am I not enough? Or maybe looking around and thinking, why don't people really get me?
hmm That search for connection, for feeling, truly seen, it's part of being human, trying to find meaning in how we relate to others and ourselves.
Absolutely. And we carry these questions sometimes quietly about our value, our place.
Yeah.
You feel that barrier sometimes, right? Like the way we connect or how others see us, it's just off somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It feels off.
Well, we've been digging into some really interesting source material for you today. It centers around principles inspired by, maybe surprisingly, a classic book from way back in 1936, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Right. And before you dismiss it as like just an old self-help guide or something manipulative.
Hold on, yeah, because the sources we looked at frame this very differently. Not as shallow tricks, but as a potentially powerful philosophy for life. They even call it a possible magic key.
A magic key, yeah. For transforming relationships, maybe even how you see yourself and, well, maybe even the world around you. It's quite a claim.
It is, and it's wild that ideas almost a century old could still be so relevant, but the sources really argue they are. Timeless, powerful stuff.
Think of it like rediscovering some ancient wisdom that just works. We're trying to pull out the core essence for you, the most valuable insights from this material.
And the sources, they kick things off right away with two really striking historical examples, just to show the kind of transformation we're talking about. First up, Benjamin Franklin.
Ah, Franklin. Founding father, inventor, statesman, the whole deal.
But imagine him younger, apparently heavily criticized, seen as pretty selfish, self-centered, doesn't quite match the image we have, does it?
Not at all. The sources point out he wasn't born with that famous social skill. He was apparently quite sharp-tongued, critical, focused on himself.
Really? Franklin?
Yeah. But the point is, he changed. Through deliberate self-work, really focusing on how he interacted with people, learning to listen, persuade gently, and make people feel valued, he fundamentally shifted.
So that transformation was key to who he became later.
That's what the sources argue. His own life shows how changing your approach to connection can literally reshape your path, your destiny. From kind of an arrogant kid to, well, Benjamin Franklin.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful start. And the second story, it sounds even more, maybe raw, Louisa May Alcott.
Yeah, long before Little Women. The sources describe her stuck in this absolutely grueling factory job, 14 hours a day, just depleted.
14 hours, that's unimaginable.
And feeling totally trapped, desperate. The sources even mention her writing to her principal saying something like, I feel so stuck, I almost want to die. Just heartbreaking.
Oh my goodness.
But the principal's response, that's the key here. It wasn't criticism. It wasn't dismissal. It was belief. Encouragement.
What did the principal say?
Something along the lines of recognizing her spirit, telling her she was wonderful, that she deserved bigger dreams, maybe try teaching. Just that act of seeing her, valuing her.
That was the spark.
It seems so. It lifted her, set her on a completely different path, eventually leading her to become this incredibly beloved writer.
Wow. From near despair to Little Women, sparked by someone believing in her. Okay, these examples really hit home. They show this isn't just theory, human connection. These principles, they can literally change lives.
Yeah, they offer a way out of feeling lost or inadequate.
Which brings us back to the main question. If lives can change so dramatically, what are these principles? What is this magic key the sources talk about?
And that's what we're going to unpack for you. Delving into how to influence, yes, but really how to forge those deeper connections we all want.
The sources mention people like Theodore Roosevelt,
Right.
Saying his success was down to having great people around him.
Exactly. But the sources also point out that paradox. You can be surrounded by people and still feel misunderstood, disconnected. These principles offer a way to potentially bridge that gap.
So where does it start? Understanding human nature.
Pretty much. The material taps into some core ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, we have basic needs, food, shelter, sure. But it highlights this other desire,
Yes.
one that's incredibly powerful and, crucially, often unmet.
Which is?
The desire to be great. Or maybe, put more simply, the deep, innate desire to be appreciated.
Yeah. That need to feel like we matter. To be seen, valued.
Exactly. The sources argue basic needs mostly get met, but this hunger for recognition, it's almost bottomless. It's a huge driver of our behavior.
Okay, so that's the leverage point.
That's a core insight, yeah. Tapping into that desire in others, not to manipulate, but to genuinely connect, motivate, and maybe even transform lives, including your own. That's the potential magic.
Okay, I get the framework. So building on that desire for appreciation, what's the first principle the sources really emphasize?
It's sincere appreciation and praise. And the emphasis is on sincere. This isn't about empty flattery. It's genuine, heartfelt recognition.
Okay. And they have an example for this one, too.
A big one. Charles Schwab, the SEAL guy, earning $1 million a year way back when. That was just astronomical.
Right. Huge money.
And his success wasn't just business smarts. He built an amazing team. How? The sources quote him saying his greatest asset wasn't machinery or money, but his ability to arouse enthusiasm in people.
Enthusiasm? How did he do that?
His method? Sincere appreciation, you put it bluntly. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a man as criticisms from his superiors.
Boom. Wow, that's direct.
Very. The material uses that image. Praise makes even a whale dance. It suggests that when you truly see and appreciate someone's effort, their qualities, it hits that core need. It motivates them, makes them want to be even better.
It's like fuel, not just a pat on the back. It focuses on their potential, not their flaws.
Exactly. And you see this reflected elsewhere, too. The sources bring in Oprah Winfrey early on, before she was, Oprah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A producer saw her unique talent, that ability to connect, and offered real specific encouragement about how she could move people's hearts.
Not just, you're doing great, but something specific.
Right. That specific, sincere praise, recognizing her unique gift, that apparently fueled her confidence, helped launch her, it resonated deeply.
Which leads perfectly into the flip side, right? The second principle.
It does. Avoid criticism. Seems simple, but the sources dig into why it's so damaging and, honestly, so hard to resist doing.
Oh, yeah. It's tempting sometimes, isn't it? When you think someone's messing up.
Totally. But the material explains that criticism, especially personal criticism, it just wounds pride. It triggers defensiveness, resentment. We're emotional creatures, not purely logical. Criticism hits the ego hard.
And that shuts down communication.
Destroys it, often. And the sources use a really dramatic story here. Abraham Lincoln. Again, but younger Lincoln.
He seems to be a key figure in this material.
He is. Apparently, he used to write really harsh, anonymous criticisms, ridicule, even publish them.
Lincoln. Mr. Empathy. No way.
The very same.
Yeah.
And it backfired spectacularly. In 1842, one of his published attacks made the target, James Shields, so furious he challenged Lincoln to a duel.
A duel? Like with swords? Over criticism?
Yes. Swords, by a river, ready to fight to the death. It highlights just how deeply criticism can wound.
That is unbelievable. What happened?
They were stopped.
Yeah.
Literally at the last second by friends intervening. But the sources say this near-death experience completely changed Lincoln.
I can imagine.
It taught him, viscerally, the destructive power of his words. He reportedly vowed never to publicly criticize anyone again after that.
What a lesson. Learned the hardest way possible.
For sure. And you see it later. Civil War. After Gettysburg,
Yeah.
General Meade lets the Confederate Army escape. Lincoln is furious, thinks the war could have ended right there.
The pressure must have been immense. Easy to just lash out.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
But, remembering that duel, maybe, he chose differently. Instead of blasting Meade, the sources say he wrote this letter. Expressed disappointment, sure, but also reaffirmed his trust, his belief that Meade could still succeed.
He didn't crush him.
Exactly. That lack of destructive criticism, that continued belief, apparently kept Meade motivated, kept the relationship functional, helped win the war eventually. The insight isn't just don't criticize. It's that attacking the ego rarely works. Encouragement, belief. That's what changes people.
That takes incredible self-control, though. Choosing the relationship over venting.
Absolutely. And think about the modern example the sources bring in here. Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
27 years in prison. Unimaginable injustice. He comes out and chooses what? Forgiveness.
Yeah.
Not criticism of his captors.
It's still astounding to think about.
That choice, the sources argue, was maybe the key thing that allowed South Africa's peaceful transition. It shows the unbelievable power of not criticizing, even with monumental reasons to do so. Letting go of blame can literally change history. It elevates this whole idea.
It really does. From a social tactic to almost a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
A path to healing.
Yeah. And that leads nicely into the third principle, which is also about seeing the best. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
Okay, what does that look like? Just telling people they're amazing.
It's a bit more nuanced. The idea is people tend to act in line with the expectations or reputation given to them, especially by someone they respect. The sources use this cute story about Andrew Carnegie as a kid.
Carnegie again, he seems central too.
He pops up a lot. So, young Carnegie had rabbits, but the babies were starving. He needed help feeding them.
Okay, so what did he do? Pay his friends.
Nope. Much cleverer. He told his friends, if you bring clover and dandelions for the rabbits, I'll name a baby rabbit after you.
Aha! Seriously?
Seriously. And apparently the kids eagerly brought food. They were excited to have their rabbit, John or Mary, thrive. Carnegie gave them a reputation, the kind kid who takes care of their rabbit, and they lived up to it.
That's brilliant. So you're setting a positive expectation.
You're planting a seed, seeing the best version of them and inviting them into it. And the sources connect this to Steve Jobs.
Ah, okay. Modern example.
Yeah. Early Apple days, huge pressure, crazy goals. He apparently told his team they were geniuses who could change the world, gave them that massive reputation, that expectation.
And then that inspired them.
That's the idea. By articulating their potential so powerfully, he helped them push past limits, create revolutionary stuff. Assigning that positive identity unlocked something.
That feels like it connects directly back to that feeling of inadequacy we started with. You're countering someone's self-doubt by showing you believe.
Exactly. You help them see what they could be, which flows into the fourth principle. Be genuinely interested in other people's interests.
Okay, seems straightforward. Listen to people talk about their hobbies.
On the surface, yes. But the deeper level, the sources suggest, is about shifting focus. We're all naturally self-interested, right? But to really connect, you have to consciously step into their world.
Oh, well.
Another Theodore Roosevelt story here. President Roosevelt. Busy guy. He learns an employee at the White House is really into birds.
Okay. An employee's hobby. Did he just file that away?
Apparently not. Days later, Roosevelt supposedly calls this employee over to the window, points out a specific rare bird he knew the employee would appreciate seeing.
The president did that.
Yeah. That small act, remembering, caring about a personal interest, it apparently floored the employee, made the president seem incredibly human, relatable, forged a real connection beyond just their roles.
Wow. That's about making someone feel truly seen as an individual.
Absolutely. Not just a cog in the machine. And think about Martin Luther King Jr. The sources bring him in here, too. His speeches.
Powerful. Transformative.
Right, but why? They weren't about his needs. They tapped directly into the deepest hopes and interests of his audience. Freedom, justice, equality, their world, their desires.
They articulated their interests
Perfectly. And by doing that, by showing that deep understanding, he united people around this massive shared purpose. He connected by focusing entirely on them.
That's profound. Taking it from hobbies to fundamental human rights and shared values, that creates incredible meaning.
It really does. Moving on. The fifth principle is about trust and authenticity. Be humble and quick to apologize.
Oof. Admitting mistakes. Never easy.
Super hard. Feels like weakness, right?
Yeah.
Admitting inadequacy. But the sources argue doing it quickly, sincerely. No excuses. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Builds massive trust.
Any examples?
Warren Buffett. When investments go wrong, he doesn't hide it or blame others. He apparently just says very directly, I judged wrongly.
Simple, honest.
Totally. And the sources say that humility builds confidence. They use this Eastern idea. Water flows low, embraces everything, eventually stands highest. Lowering yourself, admitting fault, paradoxically gains respect, disarms people.
Yeah, defensiveness pushes people away. Humility invites connection.
It really does. And think about Elon Musk. The sources mention when Tesla had those big Model 3 production delays.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Instead of just blaming suppliers, he publicly said he'd been too optimistic, admitted his own misjudgment. That humility, sources suggest, helped manage frustration, rebuild some trust.
Just saying I got it wrong. Powerful stuff. Seems vital for any real relationship.
Totally. Builds that foundation. Okay, last one, number 6. Appeal to the other person's needs and desires.
How is this different from being interested in their interests? Sounds similar.
It's related, but more focused on motivation, maybe persuasion. Interest is about connection. Appealing to needs is about understanding what moves them.
Okay. What drives them?
Exactly. The sources are blunt. If you want to influence someone, you have to understand what they want, their goals, their drivers. They share a funny story about Carnegie's nephew.
Another Carnegie connection.
Right. His nephew couldn't get his college kid son to reply to letters. Total radio silence.
Classic. What did Carnegie advise?
Simple. Put $5 in the letter, the nephew did it, and bam. Son replies instantly with a joke, receive the money, Mom.
Okay, so money talks, but what's the deeper point?
The point is bait. Like fishing, you use bait the fish wants, not what you want. To persuade someone, frame your idea in terms of their desires. Find the overlap between what you need and what they want.
So it's not manipulation, it's finding common ground. showing them what's in it for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It requires empathy, understanding their world, and then connecting your goal to their motivation. It's inviting, not pushing.
Okay, so we've got these 6 principles. Sincere appreciation, avoid criticism, give a good reputation, genuine interest, humility, and appealing to needs. But the sources say these aren't just tricks, right?
Not at all. They frame it as much bigger, a philosophy that changes lives, a whole way of interacting with the world. They even quote Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
What did Rousseau say?
If you were to have enemies, excel your friends. But if you wish to have friends, let your friends excel you.
Whoa! Okay, that really flips the script on competition and, always trying to be the best.
Completely. The sources argue we're often taught to compete, to win, to highlight ourselves. But this philosophy says the real key to meaning and connection is the opposite.
Helping others shine.
Yeah. Genuinely caring, celebrating their wins, being interested in them, building people up, not trying to climb over them. It shifts your focus from needing validation yourself to finding fulfillment and fostering others' success and happiness.
That connects right back to those initial feelings, doesn't it? Feeling inadequate or misunderstood. Maybe the answer isn't trying harder to be enough, but finding connection by valuing others.
That's strongly implied. The sources really push this idea. Apply these principles, empathy, respect, genuine care, and you start changing things.
Yeah.
Your life, your relationships, maybe even a little bit of the world around you. It's a path to finding meaning and connection, not just achievement.
That's a really hopeful, powerful takeaway. These aren't just social hacks, they're ways to build a richer, more connected, more meaningful life. A way forward when you feel unseen.
Absolutely. Practical steps rooted in a big perspective shift. From focusing on me to genuinely focusing on you, on the other person. That changes everything, how people see you, how you feel about yourself.
So as you, our listener, think about all this. Consider that Rousseau quote again. Let your friends excel you. What if you shifted focus just a little from needing recognition to giving it?
Yeah. What's one small, sincere compliment you could give today? One question you could ask that shows real interest in someone else's world?
How might just trying to understand someone before trying to be understood change the next conversation?
It might not always be easy, but the sources suggest this shift. This is the magic key.
Yeah.
Simple, maybe, but potentially life-changing. A way to build deeper connections, find more meaning, and move past feeling inadequate towards something bigger. Shared humanity, shared purpose.